For this assignment, you'll want to look at the slides that I'm presenting, and as you're watching, pause, rewind as needed, and you'll want to enter this information into your notes slides. You'll want to probably follow along with the same headings that I use as well, just to keep that in mind. So today we're going to focus specifically on photosynthesis, but we will bring up cellular respiration also, because that's coming up next in this unit, and the two go hand in hand. So first of all, before we even get to that, I want to talk about cells and what cells need. Okay, so cells in general, every single one need energy, and that energy is able to help them move, for a cell to change its shape in order to repair itself, to make new cell parts, to make food transported throughout the cell, to get rid of waste. And so there's a lot of different things that cells need energy for. And in some cases, the sun is going to be involved. Now, technically, the sun really is our ultimate source of energy. The sun provides energy for all living things, but in different ways. It might be directly providing it for those living things, or eventually it might be that energy might be transformed and get to other living things. So initially, if you have an autotroph, so this would be an organism that makes its own food, an autotroph is going to get its energy directly from the sun. Now, if you have a heterotroph, well, they're not making their own food. Instead, they're getting their energy by eating other organisms. So you and I would be considered heterotrophs. And one way that these organisms can get energy is through one process of photosynthesis. And this is going to be where you're using energy from the sun, or that light energy. And when the organism takes it in, it goes through this process and converts that light energy into chemical energy. And so you'll notice there's a formula off to the right here: CO2, carbon dioxide, H2O, water. Mix those two with light energy, and what you get are two different products. And we'll talk about what those products are later on. So the organisms that go through photosynthesis are only going to be your autotrophs, so anything that makes its own food. On the other hand, there's another way that organisms can get energy, and that's through this process of cellular respiration. Like I said, we'll focus more on this in the future, but this is another way where organisms are getting some sort of food to create their own energy. And it's going to be creating something called ATP. That's adenosine triphosphate, but really we're going to be using the word ATP moving forward. Now, cellular respiration can take place in both autotrophs and heterotrophs. So it does take place in pretty much all cells overall. Now, for photosynthesis, like I said, it's a method of taking that light energy or energy from the sun and turning it into chemical energy. For autotrophs, those would be, again, self-feeders. They're making their own food. And when this is taking place, these specific organisms have chloroplasts. And you might recall chloroplasts when you were learning about the organelles of cells. Plant cells have chloroplasts. There are other organisms that are autotrophs, but the chloroplast is specific to photosynthesis. The whole process takes place in the chloroplasts, and it all happens because there are these chlorophyll inside of the chloroplasts, and these are just little pigments that absorb the light. So if you look at the picture here, in this plant leaf, you have your chloroplasts in each of the plant cells, and the chlorophyll is absorbing that sunlight. And that's really where the initial process takes place. It gets the energy from the sun into those cells. Now, if we look again at that chemical equation, we are taking carbon dioxide and water, and that's sunlight. The light is not necessarily written within the equation, but we have this arrow here showing that we're taking these two materials, and when we process them with the light, we're making glucose, that's this C6H12O6, and oxygen. So those are the two products made in photosynthesis. So that, like I said, that C6H12O6, that would be your glucose. It is a type of sugar, otherwise known as a carbohydrate. And Mostly what we need to know, plants and animals both use these products of photosynthesis. So that glucose that's made, we are using that for metabolic fuel. So really when you're eating, let's say you're eating lettuce or you're eating celery, you're eating anything from plants, you're getting that food and you're getting that glucose, and that's what allows your body to move and for your body to do all of the different tasks it needs, including all of its cells, those tasks we talked about at the beginning here. Now, heterotrophs, they take in that energy from that outside source and they cannot make their own energy. So we cannot just stand outside in the sun and just say, okay, sun, give me energy. It doesn't work that way. We're not going to be able to make our own food that way. So that's something really specific to autotrophs compared to heterotrophs. Now, when we're taking in the glucose, or you could think of other carbs, so breads, rice, grains, proteins, or fats. Again, we are not getting them the same way. When we eat, we're not getting them the same way that the cells are either. So that's where we'll focus next on cellular respiration.